Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Good morning, Bill.
Morning,
Wow,
Peter.
that was quite an introduction.
Good morning, Naomi.
Good morning.
How are you
Starting
this morning?
We're starting with energy, and we're keeping going with energy.
Yes, we're going to be very concise and on the point today.
Today we are, because the name of today's show, it's number 98, and I'll have you know that Peter, offline, has informed me that the
band.
the wall peeling
Guitar
intro,
paint peeling.
rock and roll paint peeling. That's what I meant. Paint peeling is underway. He has started the process.
Yeah, that means I went to breakfast with the boys and chit-chatted and went to the house and fiddled around with computers for a while.
We're on show episode number 98, and you are going to reveal it on show 100 on our birthday, 100th birthday.
Oops,
we hope. All right, number 98. Today's name of today's show is 7 Ways to Buy Houses That Realtors Hate and Sellers Love. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah.
Huh?
That's it, all right. But both ends of the spectrum, 7 ways. You know, people think, oh, you sell your house, call a realtor and sell your house.
Right.
But a house is so big that most people don't have cash to just go buy it.
Yep.
So financing is involved.
Yeah.
And there opens the door to everything you're going to say.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's because it's so big.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Bill's going to tell us about it.
Well, I think yesterday, I have to sneeze, so in a minute you're going to hear me sneeze, but I think yesterday was
Back up.
yeah.
And they're off.
Oh, thank you. This damn this mic thing here. I was at a meeting yesterday, and I walked away from the meeting. I was at one of those my network meeting, and I walked away thinking that I have actually, for the first time ever, felt like I've hit an upper echelon of real estate investing. And I don't normally feel that way, because I just feel like I'm just a guy that just does this, and you know how I am. I just I don't think I'm like that. The realtor in the group, who has 88 agents, okay, came up to me and actually told me he's got 2 deals he wants me to look at because he can't put the deals together. He's like, my son has a house and he's kind of like having trouble with it, and I don't think I can help him. Would you be willing to talk to him?
Holy cow.
Wow.
There you go.
That's amazing.
That's the point. That's the point.
The other one is he's got some guy, a friend of his, that has a house. He says it's an ugly house and he wants to sell it. Would I be opposed to looking at it before he listed it? Maybe I could help him, because maybe I could do a better job than he could. So,
good.
That's
anyways,
amazing.
It was kind of like a little proud moment there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I got, what am I, what'd you say, stripe 3 or class 6 or what is it, Naomi? I don't know. What is he talking about?
Well, you're general.
Oh, general.
You're the general.
Oh, I just got another star then.
Yeah.
All right,
right.
good.
I think you just
5-star.
realized what you always were.
This is true. I've had that happen a few times, yes. So here we go. Today's description. The title is 7 Ways to Buy Houses That Realtors Hate and Sellers Love. We haven't done this for about 6 months, so that's why we are going to recap. If you've listened to a lot of our shows, this is definitely one you should listen to, because we are going to pound through this because we have lots of information to give. Normally when I do this in a meetup, it takes 90 minutes. And we're going to try to do it in 60 minutes. But it's going to be
Pete and I are going to basically be decoration.
No.
And we're going to nod our heads and
No, I hope not.
we'll throw in a word, but
here's a description. Caution, caution, caution. Don't believe anything you hear and half of what you see in real estate. During this podcast, you will quickly see how to leverage your mind, not your wallet or your credit. Knowing how to convert houses into money now, money monthly, and money later, regardless if you are wealthy or broke, works everywhere if you know the exact steps And in this podcast, we are going to cover those steps so you can decide to choose the easy way or the hard way while earning a full-time income working part-time. Whew.
Yeah.
That's a
Wow.
big, bold promise. Do I need to read it again?
No.
Okay.
No, just deliver.
Deliver.
Deliver. Well,
Okay.
let's take them one at a time.
It's
Good.
rock and roll.
So the first thing that we should cover is a mindset that I picked up. I've been doing this 15 years ago. I think I picked this up probably 10 or 12 years ago. And the mindset is this. If somebody doesn't come to me to sell a house, I don't do a deal. I don't spend time on it. And it's not an arrogance point. It's because too many people will say, my neighbor's got a house for sale. You should go talk to him. He's like really motivated. Right? Naomi knows.
We all know.
Oh,
We
I saw.
all-
Oh, wait, there's a house down the street. I saw a sign that's for sale. No, there's tons of them for sale.
Yes.
That's not the point.
Yes. It's
There's
not
water
those-
everywhere.
There's no. That's not a lead.
So the point that I'm trying to make here is that they're motivated to get $200,000 for their $200,000 house, because most people think that I'm going to sell it for $200,000. I'm going to subtract the 6%, and that's what I'm going to get.
Good luck.
Right? So they're going to subtract their $12,000, and that's what they're going to get.
The best to you.
Exactly, which is not going to happen. But you've heard about that in other shows. Today we're just going to stay right on point with math. Today we're going to take you from it's not magical, it's just math. It's not magic, it's just math. So that's the purpose of today's episode. Okay? Because it's all going to be math today.
It's mathical.
Mathical, yeah, there you go. So the first thing you need to learn is that the mindset of casting your net and having them come to you is the most important thing that you could do in this industry. Okay? Because if you're on the MLS, which works, and you're hunting for deals, you will definitely spend a lot of time and a lot of energy with very little results. You will get results, but very little. Kiyosaki said in one of his books, I don't remember which one, I think it was the Cash Flow Quadrant, might have been the first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. One of those books, he says that he looks at 100 properties
Yeah.
before he buys.
Yeah. I think it's his real estate investing course.
Is it? Okay, yeah.
I think so. But anyway.
I just know he said it. I don't
Yeah,
know which
no, he
which
definitely
which
did.
book.
He definitely said he looks at about 100 properties before he purchases one.
So it's a strategy, and he's got a lot more money than I probably ever will have. But I'm just telling you, it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, who
Right.
has that much tenacity to lose 99 times?
Right.
Or 29 or 9 and just keep going?
Yeah, and I'm sure he's not doing it either. So there's another point.
You pay somebody to lose.
getting somebody to pay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
He pays them to lose the 99 times until they get the 100th one. They just keep getting paid, so they show up to work.
All right.
So the first thing you need to learn is that you should cast your net, like I said, and you should when the fish come in, you decide which ones you want to keep, which ones you don't want to keep. Okay, let's say, for example, I know when I go striper fishing, striper bass fishing, they have to be 28 inches long. So anything less than 28 inches gets thrown back. So this is very similar when you're doing. Yeah, it's a big fish. This is very similar to when you're hunting for houses. When you're house hunting, this is how it has to be done. Okay. The second thing is okay. So if you're going to cast your net, what water should you put it in, and where should you put the net? All right, which is the whole part about matching your message with your market.
Message to market match.
Right. So it would make sense that you would go to places where people are looking to sell a house and have a higher probability of being motivated. Okay. Now, motivated doesn't mean desperate. You know, a lot of people think motivated are like foreclosed houses. What we are talking about right now are people that are either in a financial relief situation or they have a house that's causing a problem. Right. That makes them motivated. Right. Like, for example, probate or something like that. okay, or they have two houses, they've been divorced and they've been off living for 5 years and met a new other half, and they're living with that other half, and now they have two houses. So they're motivated, not desperate. Okay? So when you are casting your net, you want to match your message with your market. So we look at places like divorce. We look at places like probate. I don't have the list in front of me, but there's a list of places that will go look for properties. Out of area owners is another one. It's a very good one. So we're going to go to places where the probability of people wanting to sell a house is pretty high.
Right.
Okay. Then, like I just said, the next thing you want to do is you want to see how motivated they are. So when they call in, we use a form that we just its name is prospect suspect form because we haven't come up with a better name for it. Peter likes to talk about that once in a while, like get a new name for it. But that's what it is. It's figuring out whether they're a prospect or a suspect. You can find that form at flippinghousesforrookies.com/prospect suspect form. You can have it for free. So that's flippinghousesforrookies.com/prospect suspect form. Okay. We use that form for inbound calls. So when we cast our net and they call us, we use the prospect suspect form. Now, that usually means we're sending out letters. We use what we call the yellow letters. That means we put out signs, we put out business cards, we have door magnets, anything, ads on Craigslist, all different places we can cast that net. Okay. Then recently, 6 months ago, when Naomi came around, had a huge part of this part of the business. We started calling for sale by owners because we recognize that for sale by owners are the perfect market for terms deals, right? Because the reason why is because a for sale by owner doesn't always need their cash now. They are willing to receive payments for their expenses and wait for somebody to get paid off. Not everybody's like that, but in the needle, in the haystack, there's a needle.
They're usually thinking a little bit differently
Right.
than people that are listing their homes with a realtor.
Well, they've already separated from the conventional think. They don't want to use a realtor, so they've already stepped outside of that normal arena.
Correct.
And so we step in and give them a solution that they don't even know exists. So if you're doing outbound calls, we use the for sale by owner script, which is at Flipping Houses for Rookies /FSBO script, FSBO, for sale by owner, FSBO script. You can go download that, and you can do outbound calls.
Correct.
That has a whole course attached to it called How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan,
Right.
Which you can find that at, I don't have the link in front of me. It's flippinghouses.com/ what is the link, Emma?
Which one is it?
The making the course. Where's my pages with links on it? Oh, here it is right here. I got it. Buy without a loan. Yeah, sorry about that. So it's flippinghouses.com/ buy without a loan. All the documents, all the ways that you can do, everything is in there. Okay, so that's outbound calls. So if you're doing outbound calls, you use the for sale by owner script, and you find someone that's willing to do payments until they want to get paid off. That's a terms deal.
Right. And I know that we've covered, looking for people that are maybe more motivated.
Yeah.
But my perspective is these 7 deal structures, even with people that are listing with a real estate agent, if they knew about some of these alternatives, I would venture to say that for certain they would be going with some of these alternatives because they actually financially benefit the seller better on so many different levels. But it's just people simply don't know. And that's why it is kind of going after the for sale by owners, people that are already have opened up their perspective to possible alternate solutions.
Right. So out of the 7 deals, 3 of them are done with a $100 deposit,
Mm-hmm.
and they're done on pretty houses.
Yes.
3 of them are done with ugly houses,
Mm-hmm.
and 1 of them are done because the
Either or.
owner, either or, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover that in a minute. Okay. So casting the net, I just want to cover this. Casting the net means you could do outbound calls, do for sale by owners. You could actually download that script
Mm-hmm.
and this afternoon have leads. If you call more than 10 people and don't have an appointment, you're doing something wrong. You need to email me or get on the course or figure out what's wrong, because there's something wrong. Okay, so there's no reason why you can't type into Google, for sale by owner in your city, your county, or your state. Just cast a bigger net and find, Zillow will give you a bunch of them. I mean, for me, it gives me hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Go find 10 people that are selling a house for sale by owner, make 10 phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have a lead. I mean, it could be this afternoon if you really did it.
Absolutely.
We do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Or you can follow some of my other stuff, yellow letter course I have, how to attract motivated sellers. You can send out letters. You can put out signs. Pete puts out signs. We bought several houses by putting out signs. We used to use $20 bills, $20 business card bills, and drop
Mm-hmm.
them in Home Depot. That works. So there's other ways to cast net. If you're doing that, then when they call in, I use an answering service called PatLive, patlive.com. When they call in, they answer 6 or 8 questions, and I call them back, and I use the prospect suspect form. Okay? All right. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So that's like the front end. Like the front end.
How to pull them in.
In 16 minutes, we did the front end. Okay? So it takes a little work to do all that, but you don't have to be that sophisticated. Honest to God, you could just do a for sale by owner call, and you can have a lead by the end of the week. Okay? Once you get to the point where somebody says they're motivated, how do you know what kind of a deal you have? How do you know what to do? That's a big question, right? We ran into that a long time ago, Peter. Peter want to know, okay, so I filled out the prospect suspect form. I get all the information. What do I do? Right?
Right.
So here we go. We're going to math it up, okay? No magic. We're going to math it
Just
up.
math.
We're going to math it up, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to distinguish how much they're asking for the house. And then we ask the second question, well, what's its estimated value? The only reason for asking that question is to put them on the spot to make sure that they're not asking $300,000 for a $200,000 house.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like that. I mean, I sat in a house 2 days ago, and the guy wants $650,000 for the house.
Mm-hmm.
He will sell it to me. He begged me practically in a conservative type of way to take the house, and I'm not going to do it. Okay, because I don't think it's a $650,000 house, number one. And just think of it this way. It's a $650,000 house, and the kitchen was 1950s, and he felt like that added character to the property.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
What a salesman.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, try to convince the general public of that one who watch TV all the
Oh,
time.
Lord.
The stove it actually reminded me, I don't remember the name of the movie, but there was a movie one time I watched where the parents lived in a bomb shelter and didn't know that they thought there was an atomic bomb.
What was it?
And they
Bubble
lived.
Boy?
Yeah,
Someone
Something
was
like
Brendan
that.
Fraser, then he comes out when he's like
Yeah,
19. And
yeah.
comes
No,
out.
he's like 30.
Yeah,
Right.
something like that.
Hello,
Yeah.
how are you?
The house reminded me of that, because
Okay.
it had metal kitchen cabinets, and the stove was very it was 1950s. It was gorgeous,
Yeah.
but somebody paying $650,000 doesn't want that stove. I don't think, but he seemed to think so. So the
Well,
point
that's why he's the...
that's why he's in his position that he's in. And come to find out at the very end when I'm leaving, somebody sold him the house on a rent to own. That's why he was interested in doing it, because that's how he bought
Oh,
the
that's
house.
funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody rented it
So
to him for 2 years.
So you're not making this all up?
No, I'm not making this up.
Why would Bill make something up?
Oh, to be different. I don't know.
I have enough trouble keeping track of the truth. Never mind lies. You kidding me? If I throw a
No.
lie in there, I
I'm
can't remember what the hell I did 2 days ago sometimes.
All kidding aside, the reason I say that is I'm sure people think, oh, this is new stuff. This is
No.
something these real estate gurus come up with creative financing. This is old stuff. I talked to my broker, who's a mechanic.
Yeah.
He doesn't bother much brokering. He tinkers a little bit. He did this years ago.
These deals-
Somehow he knew.
These deal structures have been around
Yeah.
way before the real estate industry has
Yes.
been done since the beginning of time.
Yeah, since
It's just
land.
much more refined now. It's much more legal now. It's just
we
much
don't
better.
we don't pay with chickens and eggs anymore,
Right,
We
right.
we use banks' money. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, all right. So does that make sense?
Sure.
Mhm.
All right. So first thing we're going to do is find out what they're asking, and then what they think the estimated value is. Then in the conversation, and there's a certain way to do this, and the way that we do it now, we hadn't for a very long time, is we use a sentence that goes very similar to this. So a lot of times we can do we can structure the deal with the financing.
Mm-hmm.
You have a mortgage, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then they give you mortgage data. If they don't give you mortgage data, then they're more likely a suspect. But and that was like the way in the old days, but nowadays we kind of go through that. We have some questions we can work on, which are all on the scripts. Just go download the scripts. I've given you 2 or 3 URLs already, and they're there. Okay? So once we know what they owe and what they're asking, we divide those two numbers. So like, for example, if they owe 100 and they're asking 200, then I take $100,000 and I type it into the calculator and I hit the divide button, and then I put $200,000 in there and I hit the equals button. And it tells me that they have a 50% loan to value ratio. In other words, what they owe in the house is 50% of what the value is.
Mm-hmm.
At that specific point, I know what one of the 7 offers I can give comfortably. Now, I didn't say that they would accept it. I'm just telling you that what I have figured out after giving thousands and thousands of offers is the only thing that can easily be negotiated in any transaction is the equity, aka their profit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not likely that the seller can negotiate their mortgage. I mean, there's short sales and stuff, but I don't recommend that. It's not likely that they can, negotiate their taxes.
Right.
It's not likely they can negotiate their insurance. It's not likely they can negotiate a whole lot the repairs. I mean, the repairs have to be done. They have to be done. There is some negotiating there, but not a huge amount. So the only thing that they have 100% negotiating factors on is their equity. So by figuring out how much equity they have, which is the loan to value ratio. So in this particular case, I'm giving you an example. If they owe 100 and they're asking 200,000, they have $100,000 worth of equity.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, the definition of equity is, and don't get this confused with any other definition, is how much money's coming to the closing table minus what they owe. Right? It's not how much the value of the house is. It's not the estimate. It's not the CMA, which is the realtor's evaluation of the house. It's how much money is hitting the closing table. So if I only paid $125,000 for this $200,000 house, they have $25,000 worth of equity because they owe $100,000.
Right.
So the equity is the amount of money hitting the closing table minus anything that's owed. So in this particular case, I know if I have a $200,000 house and they owe $100,000, there's $100,000 worth of equity. That $100,000 worth of equity, the seller and I are going to talk about and negotiate how I'm going to give them the $100,000. Am I going to give it to them all right now, like within 30 days, which means I need to either have the money myself or I need to go borrow the money from a bank or a private lender or somebody that does have it or an IRA?
Right.
Or are they willing to let me pay it over time until I can get it, which is owner financing?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they willing to let me go find a buyer that is willing to pay the expenses until they can qualify for a mortgage to pay them off. And that may take 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. The point is once I know how much equity they have, the loan to value ratio tells me what the equity is, then I can structure the offer intelligently and beneficial to them, because they're going to be comfortable with when are they going to get their money, because that's all they care about at the closing.
That's all they care about.
Isn't it so true, right? So what you're doing is figuring that out really early in the game. That's the reason for doing a prospect-suspect call, or what we call a closing call, which is the call after we do with a for sale by owner. Because when we do a for sale by owner call, all we're doing is looking for somebody that's interested in talking turkey.
Right. You're just gathering information and sorting.
Right.
Suspect, prospect, suspect.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it goes over to a closing caller or scripts that we use that does pretty much the prospect-suspect form, so we can get to this point right here. Because that's what we're trying to do, is filter the system, or filter our sellers on, are they willing to wait for their money, right? And are they willing to receive payments for expenses and all that kind of stuff to help us purchase the property?
Exactly.
Because we are not going to the bank and borrowing money to buy their property unless it's a smoking hot deal. And what happens at that point is we're buying 40, 50, 60 cents on a dollar. And we get our private investor really excited because they're in for a low number and they know that they can't lose. And they throw the money at us. And that's the trick. So if they want all cash, we go into what Ron LeGrand calls the Mayo formula, the maximum allowable offer, which we'll go over in a minute. And we use that formula, which is also the cash offer. Okay, but I'm telling you, it's not more than 55% after repairs.
Yeah.
Okay, so the offer's so low that we can easily find the cash. So if you're having trouble finding properties,
you haven't worked that deal late enough,
right?
or properties. I was thinking cash, but anyway.
You're right, because if you're having trouble finding money, then your offer's too high.
Yeah, it's not a
most
good
of the
enough,
time. The offer's too high.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be completely, utterly embarrassed when you make that offer, and you have to be uncomfortable. I've made thousands of offers, and I still squirm when I give those offers.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. But I'll tell you what, this is what I do know. It only lasts for a couple of minutes. Right? For example, the house I just wrote a contract on this week is a $250,000 house, and I paid $110,000.
Beautiful.
Right? Now, do I have trouble finding that money? No. I'm less than 50%. I'm about 40% loan to value ratio. Right? So is the money person protected fully? Okay? All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
Am I doing okay, Peter?
Doing fine.
Okay.
Doing good.
Here we go. So now that we know what the loan to value ratio is, we're going to go down the list of the 7 deals so we know which ones we can work with. Now, the point that I want to make right now is it's not the math that makes the decision on who's going to on the seller selling the house. It's going to be their willingness. Are they willing to accept? Like, for example, I got $100,000 equity in this example I'm giving you, right? It's worth $200 because I'm willing to pay $200, right? And then they only owe $100. So are they going to sell for 50 cents at a dollar? No.
Not likely.
They may want to not go less than $180,000. They want $80,000 in money. Now what I need to figure out is okay, do they want the money in 30 days, or are they willing to wait 2, 5, or 7 years for it? Okay, so it's in stages. All right, so that part, once you have the math, comes into just talking to your seller and finding out what it is that they actually want the money for. Like suppose they want to buy another house.
Right.
So suppose that's the case. Well, maybe you could make the payments on that other house and help them solve that problem. I'm not saying that's the solution, but I'm just saying that when you know what their problem is, often you can help them and structure it in your deal, because if you know what their problem is that they're trying to solve, you can then become part of the solution instead of the problem. You're on the right side of the equation at that point.
You're in their world.
Well, your loan to value tells you what you can do or we can do on our end.
Right.
But when you talk to them, you find out what's happening to them, then one of those would probably be more useful to solve their problem.
Right.
But that's to be determined.
So this formula, like you're saying, this formula is devised for only one reason and one reason only. And that is exactly what you just said, Peter, is to organize the investor's thoughts. That's it. Doesn't mean the seller has to take these offers. All it does is organize the investor's thoughts on what offer to give first, what offer to give second, what offer to give third, fourth, and fifth. Now, I only usually give 3 offers because by that time I've either closed them or decided we're not doing business. Okay?
Yeah, 3 sounds enough to me.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, I don't even think we get that far, Naomi, most of the time. I mean, we get through the first or second offer, and by the time we get to the third, they're exhausted.
Well, and part of it, too, is either a pretty house or it's a nice house.
Yeah.
So already
Ugly.
it's just 3 offers, one or the other. Now,
Right.
of course, there's a 7th offer that can go either way, but
Right.
yeah.
So let's go down the list, okay? So the first one on the list, on the top of the list, okay? This is kind of hard to do without a whiteboard, but on the top of the list, it's what we call a slot deal. That's a sandwich lease option transaction, okay? So what that means is the mathematical part is they owe $100,000 on a house that's worth $100,000. Now, we've done a lot of shows on the slot deals, okay? And the reason why we call it a slot is it was a joke in the beginning with Pete and I that you could put $10 in a slot machine and come out with $10,000
Right.
in the casino. And that's exactly how this deal works. Is you could put $10 in and end up with $10,000. And the way that works is you are going to use probably the for sale by owner script, which we're probably going to do that next week. I was thinking next week what we could do is match some of the marketing with some of the 7 different deal structures.
Right.
And how you find those specific deals. So if you're looking for a terms deal, there's specific marketing you can use just for that. So in this particular case, a slot deal could be easily found using the for sale by owner script and that whole system. Okay? So you have an owner that owes $100,000, right? And the house is worth $100,000.
100% loan to value ratio.
100% loan to value ratio, 0% equity.
I mean, granted, you could have more equity. You could have all the equity, but it's for that scenario.
It's a good point, Naomi. So they could be free and clear and be stuck on, I will not take 1 penny less than $100,000.
Right.
You could do a slot deal. Doesn't have to be over leveraged.
Exactly.
It's a very good point. Okay. But for mathematical sakes, because it's not, we're doing just math today, so the investor knows which offer to make. He knows the slot deal is available to him. And basically what happens is in a slot deal is that the seller is willing to receive payments from anywhere from 2 to 10 years or 15 years, depending on how over leveraged the property is.
Right.
Because like in the meetup last month, I showed you that if it was over leveraged by 30 or 40 grand, you need to have time to let the loan catch up to the equity.
Stretch
that
term
pay
out.
down the loan to catch up to the equity. Okay, so you might need 10 years to do the deal, so the math could catch up.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what happens is you tell the seller that you will purchase for $100,000, and the way that it works is you're going to go find your buyer. The buyer is going to pay the monthly payments until they can qualify for a mortgage and bring you the $100,000. So where we find the money, because that's where the title came from, how to buy real estate without a loan, is we don't need to go get a loan because we're going to go find the buyer, and the buyer is going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So we don't need to have, because we don't need the money in 30 days. We don't need the bank. We don't need the private lender. We don't need to go find a loan because we're going to make the deal so the buyer pays for it.
Exactly.
That's the magic.
Exactly.
Okay. So you go find your buyer, and they're willing to pay $110,000. They give you a $10,000 deposit.
Mm-hmm.
You assign them the option from your seller
Mm-hmm.
and make $10,000. They pay the owner, the buyer pays the seller
Mm-hmm.
the monthly payments until they can get qualified for a mortgage, and they finish the transaction.
There you go.
That's a slot deal. Next one down is called an option deal. An option is just a simple way of saying that you agree with your seller on the dollar amount that you're going to pay, how much time the seller is going to give you to pay that amount, and any specific terms, like if you're going to rent or something like that, then how much you're going to pay every month. Okay, the option doesn't usually cover the rental stuff, but it has clauses in there that attach to the lease itself. Okay, but the point of an option is you're saying in writing that I'm willing to give you $100,000 within the next 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I bring you $100,000, you have to sell to me. Okay, so that's an option. The math on the option is a loan to value ratio. The loan can go all the way up to 90% of its value,
Mm-hmm.
and it has 10% equity. These deals are much like what a realtor does. Okay, you're going to go find your buyer, you're going to bring them to the table. Within 30 or 45 days, you're going to have money. Okay, which includes the 10% that you're going to sell for as your profit. Now, the reason why we could do this without a license is because when you sign an option, you're actually buying a portion of the equity. Okay? Now, in a slot deal, we're making the equity, but in this deal, we have 10% worth of equity. So when we give them the $100 or $10 or whatever we're giving them for the option
Right.
deposit, we're actually purchasing a portion of the equity, which is why now legally you don't have to give them any money, but I make sure we have a legal tender passed, which is money,
Right.
to make sure that we consummate the deal and that it's solid, because you don't want anybody backing out.
Exactly.
Okay, so an option deal is 90% loan to value, 10% equity. Okay. Next one down is a lease with an option, which is 85% loan to value ratio, 15% equity. The difference between this deal and a slot deal is it's done similarly. It's kind of like a sandwich lease option where I lease from my seller
Mm-hmm.
and I lease to my buyer, and I stay in the middle. And that's the difference. With a slot deal, we don't stay in the middle. In a slot deal, we just take our fees and we run. We don't have anything to do with monthly payments. We take our money and we go.
Mm-hmm.
In a lease option deal, go ahead.
Is like somebody that's subletting. Like, say if you
Right.
rented an apartment and then you subletted to somebody else.
Right.
But obviously, you know, the owner is completely aware and comfortable with everything. So.
So I'm going to, if Naomi was my seller, she's going to lease to me,
Mm-hmm.
we'll say for $100,000 and $800 a month.
Right.
I'm going to turn around and sell it to Peter for $150,000 a month and collect, $150,000 as a sale price and collect $1,200 a month.
Right.
So I've made $50,000 on the equity
Mm-hmm.
and $400 a month in positive cash flow.
There you go.
However, I am promising the seller that I am responsible for the lease. So if Peter does not pay me,
You pay.
I pay. And the way you cover yourself on that is when Peter comes to me, he's going to give me a security deposit, we'll say of $10,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is. And I'm going to keep some of that money in escrow or in my own bank account. So if Peter doesn't pay me, I have capital to make sure that the seller, Naomi, gets
Right.
paid.
Right.
So it's not a risky business at all, because if you structure the deal correctly and get all these pieces and parts that I'm talking about in there,
Mm-hmm.
then you will easily do multiple of these deals without a problem and no risk. I mean, you have nothing invested at this point. All you have invested is $100 deposit or $10 deposit, whatever you use. I use 100, but use $100 deposit, and that's it. You have nothing to
Exactly.
risk. The deed's not in your name. You don't have to do any repairs. You're doing this with a pretty house. You know, you're not worrying about contractors. You're not worrying about insurance. None of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Because this deal is probably the easiest way and fastest way for anybody to make money in real estate. These three deals, the slot deal, the option deal, and the lease option deal. Okay? We good?
We're
We're
good.
I knew I was going to do all the talking this morning.
Well, yeah.
So the next one down is called getting the deed. Its slang is subject to.
Mm-hmm.
It's called that because the way the deal works is we are going to have the seller give us the deed to the house. The mortgage stays in their name. And we are buying it subject to the underlying mortgage commitments. So if they're paying 65% in interest, and they have a 1,000,000-year contract, we're agreeing to that. How's that for embellishing?
Yeah.
The point is whatever their interest rate is, whatever their terms are,
You're taking
whatever.
all that risk onto
That's
yourself.
right. Well, it's not. Yeah, it's risk, but you're taking on those obligations.
Yes.
Once they deed the house to you, you are promising to keep those obligations in the seller's name.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, in their honor. Okay. Now, this is done with an 80% loan to value ratio, 20% worth of equity. Now, I don't have time to cover this today, but I promise you, out of the 7 deals, this is the safest way for your seller to sell to you. And the reason why is because the deed goes in your name. And I've actually figured this out because it happened to me. If you don't make a payment, and it's not because we didn't make a payment, we actually sold the house and the lawyer didn't pay it, and there's a whole story there. But the point is if you don't sell, if I don't make the payment for the seller, then the bank goes into foreclosure. The first thing that happens when the bank goes into foreclosure is they do a title search or deed search. And they find out that my name's on the deed and the seller's name is on the mortgage. So both of us get sued. So the seller is in court with me, and most cases I have more houses, almost every case, but I have more houses than the seller.
Yeah.
So I have deeper pockets. The bank's going to want to come after me before they come after the seller.
Mm-hmm.
So it is extremely safe for the seller to do. They just need to understand it. And honestly, I've just given it to you in 2 or 3 minutes. Very often it takes me 30 to 60 minutes to sit in somebody's house so that they're comfortable with doing this.
Right.
So I'm not trying to do that with you today, but I am letting you know that out of all the deals that I've done, that's probably one of the most deal structures that I've used. That's how I started in this business, doing subject to deals. The second most has been renovations, flips. Okay. I've done a lot of the other ones. I've done a lot of lease options. I've done a lot of the other deals, owner financing. But the most that I did, the best deal that I'm good at is subject to, because I've done so many of them. We used to do them with tabletop closings, meaning that we would just do the closing in the owner's house, and I would do the closing myself. Nowadays, we use an attorney, and we do things a little bit more structured, just because of the way the world is, because it seems like it's on a scaredy cat mode. And we want to make sure that the seller is protected and knows that everything is legal and legitimate, that we're not pulling the wool over their eyes, that it is 100% legal.
And clear.
And clear, yeah. So that is getting the deed deal, which is 80% loan-to-value ratio, 20% equity. The next one down is rehab and retail. So that's your typical fix and flip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to teach you that. Just turn on A&E or any one of those shows, and they will go through all of that. I will tell you, based on experience with Peter and Jesse, we recorded one of those shows in one of our houses. They were there for 8 days, or 7 days, for 8 hours a day, and ended up with 2 or 3 hours worth of footage every day so that they can have a 19-minute show. So if you actually believe the things that you see on TV,
But it's actually that quick. 19 minutes, right?
I don't even know what to say. I feel sorry for you. Okay, so they're only. It's just drama. It's Hollywood doing their thing. But I will tell you that it is good from the sense that at least they show you what the process is. They're not showing you the details, but they give you a full overview of what it's like to go from start to finish, which is really good. Because if it wasn't for those shows, when I started, it was about, oh, you flip houses. You must have bought one of those courses on TV at midnight. That's a scam, isn't it? And that's what, when I started, that's what the industry was like.
Wow.
Now it's completely flipped because of these TV shows, I believe, to becoming famous and glorious. You know, it's a complete turnaround from where it used to be.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to continue further.
Yeah.
To the point where, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people that list their houses with agents, if they knew about some of these ways that they can sell their houses that better positions them,
Yes.
they would do it. It's
So-
just there's a lack of knowledge out there.
To your point, September 13th,
Mm-hmm.
1949,
Yes.
I looked it up.
Realtor.
They the word realtor was copyright protected.
Yeah.
That was in September.
Mm-hmm.
In October, a realtors association was formed.
Exactly.
So
How did they do business before then?
right.
Anyway.
So one of these days when I get my horsepower ramped up, that's a good way to put it, I will actually form a word like they did like realtors. I haven't gotten that word yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I offered a few weeks ago if somebody, and nobody's,
Anybody
I've
had
had
ideas?
inquires. Yeah, anybody that has that
Mhm.
word, I will give you my my course for free, which is a $500 course. It's how to make money with real estate without a loan. I will give, if you come up with the right word and you send it to me and I get all oozy, and I'll give you the course for free, which is $500. All right. All you have to do is send your ideas in
Right.
to info@flippinghousesforrookies.com or
Right.
bill@flippinghousesforrookies.com. And if the right word, a word like realtors that explains what we do as investors,
Mm-hmm.
I'll give that course away. The
Exactly.
point is that once I get the word, then we will form an association and form a group just like the realtors did, and we will get known. Before I lay down to rest in this lifetime, I expect to have that done. So it's a big task, but there you go.
I fully expect it as well.
I have people around me that I expect to help, and that will happen.
So it's all contingent on that word.
Yeah, the word first.
We have to go off to an island someplace and have a meeting with the top guys and have this plan and then launch it.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's how it works.
He
You get
just,
a button.
he
Is it?
just, he just wants to be on an island. You don't have to be on an island.
No, he's-
actually, you could be in
No.
a coffee shop.
No,
and
he's
figure it out.
describing the creatures of Jekyll Island and
Yeah.
the actual banking system now, because that's what they did
That's
in
right.
the early 30s.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Creatures
got
of
it.
Jekyll,
He's
that's
making a
yeah.
play off of that.
That's
Very,
right.
very witty.
Yeah.
Well, what
Very
I'm really
witty.
thinking was, how the realtors do it, how the real estate, how that whole thing happened. There had to be a plan, people in place, people with some ability and some clout, some money to do that. You don't just go, hey, let's raise your hand and do this today.
Right.
So you have to organize and have a bit of a plan. So whatever they did, we'll have to investigate. And,
Well, not necessarily just them, but any successful business
Yeah.
model.
Sure.
That, something else, this. That's why I use that for an example. But
Yeah.
something that would work, and you just put it in a better frame and do it
Yes.
in a different way.
Yes.
Well, it's a crazy idea, but it's not off the charts.
I have a word, but I'll tell you off camera. So
Oh,
I don't know if it,
you already got the course, Peter.
yeah, I know. I need something else.
Oh,
breakfast.
I guess I know who's buying lunch today, huh? All right, good. Let's move on. The next one down. All right, so let me just recap because we chit-chatted for a couple
Yep.
minutes. So we have a slot deal, which is 0% LTV.
Option
I'm
deal.
sorry, it's 100% LTV,
Yeah.
loan to value, in 0% equity. That's number one. The next one down is an option, which is 90% loan to value ratio, 10% equity.
Mm-hmm.
The next one below that is a lease option, which is 85% loan to value ratio,
Mm-hmm.
15% equity,
Next one below that is the subject to
right, which is 80%
loan
loan to value, 20% equity.
Mm-hmm.
The one below that is rehab retail, which I don't think we said the numbers yet, is 70% loan to value, 30% equity.
And make sure that you subtract the cost of the renovation.
Right.
Right.
The renovation has
Because
to come off.
I
of that.
didn't get this at first, I don't know, for the first few months when you were explaining this, but those numbers like 70% or 80%, that's what the offer actually is as well,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
So if it's an 80% loan to value, that's the offer you make. That's how much you pay, no more.
Yeah.
Could be less,
It's
but that's
Up to.
up to.
Like with
Yeah.
the
So you could pay
with
less.
the rehab retail, back to Naomi's
Mhm.
point,
Yeah.
the flipping number, okay, it's up to 70%. So that's what Ron LeGrand calls the Mayo formula, maximum allowable offer, right? I don't know if he came up with that, but I know that he's the one that taught it to me, so I want to make sure he gets credit for it. That means that you would take the after renovated value, the nickname is ARV,
Mhm.
which means the house is renovated in its value, right?
Mhm.
So you take the after renovated value, multiply it by 70%, and minus your repairs. And that is your Mayo formula. And I'm telling you, it's not just for rehabs. If you're paying cash or going to get a loan, if you plan on closing within the next 30 days or 45 days and it's going to be quick, then and you're using money to do it, you're not using a note or writing a loan or anything like that, then you need to use the Mayo formula. It's really the cash formula.
In fact, cash, we were speaking earlier, really ends up being several times anywhere from 40 to 50 to 60 cents on the dollar.
So what I have found, Naomi, is after making so many of these offers that the Mayo formula is really, when you come to me and say I've got a renovation project,
Yep.
I look at it and it's about it runs between 45 and 55% of the after renovated value once you pull back the renovations.
Yep.
So if you come to me and say I got a $200,000 house, the guy wants cash, I'm thinking we got to be in the low 100s before we even talk.
Mhm.
Right, right.
But that's because I've made so many deals. I do math in my head that I don't even know I'm doing sometimes.
Oh, yeah. You
And
already,
that's one of those instances.
I think you automatically know, 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, and
It runs between 45 and 55%.
mhm.
Okay. Which, by the way, the next one below that is the wholesale deal, where you're buying from the seller and going to go find a rehabber and sell to them and make a few bucks.
Mhm.
The average used to be $10,000,
Mhm.
right? I think Dan Merrill teaches that extensively. Used
Yeah.
to be 10,000. Nowadays, I get a lot of wholesalers that call me. When I say a lot, I'm saying 2 or 3 a month usually. New
Right.
guys that are on either Than's program or somebody else's program,
Mhm.
and they're looking to sell me hot properties. Nowadays, it's about $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's dwindled, and the reason
I've
why
noticed.
is because that business has become such a horse business.
Yeah.
It's a horrible business.
Yeah.
You know, it's just too many people
All looking to flip.
don't belong in the business, that don't have 2 nickels to rub against one another, trying to make $5,000 or $10,000.
And a lot of times they haven't done their numbers or research
Yeah.
correctly either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I get a wholesaler call me, it's about the only time I'm not cordial or polite.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe not true. With Peter, I'm like that a lot, but
Hey, put them up.
You know, you can be not cordial or polite to two people.
yeah,
Either
they're
the
in this
people that
room.
are the closest to you or the
Yeah.
people that you can't stand.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyhow, not to get off on a subject, but anyhow, continue on. So we have
So
the
my
wholesale.
point that I'm trying to make is the wholesale deal has a loan to value ratio of 60% with 40% equity.
Mm-hmm.
I wholesale deals by accident. What I do is when I make my cash offer, I always come out of the box first with my wholesale number. If they say yes, that just gives me another exit strategy with the house. So I don't go looking for I'm just going to wholesale this house.
Right.
I just build it into my system. So when I'm making my cash offer, so if I think the house is going to be, $100,000 on a rehab retail deal, I might start at 91 or 92,000 in my negotiating.
Right.
And if they say yes to 93 or 94 or 95,
Beautiful. You got 7,000 extra.
then I could go wholesale it and make, $7,000 to $10,000.
It gives you more options,
Yeah.
So.
It gives you additional exit strategies. That's right. Okay. So I don't, like I said, go looking for those deals, but I automatically include them because if I'm going to go dipping down into a cash deal, and it doesn't matter if it's a $200,000 house, doesn't matter if I say 102 or 103 or 93. I'm so low and it's so embarrassing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So just get over the uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And just give the number.
Exactly.
Because a percentage, and I don't know what they are, I would say probably 20% guessing, say yes. So do you have to wholesale it? No. But it's just that much more in the deal.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can always
There's
come
so
up. You say 93, they say, no, I'll take 103.
Well,
you hem and haw, and you go, yeah, all right, I'll take it. And you're still at your number that you wanted. That was
right.
for the
It
rehab.
lets you take their temperature, and it lets you know what their truly rock bottom number is.
Right.
Say even if you went lower than that, lower than the 91,000 that you mentioned before, and say you said 75,000.
Right.
And they're like, oh no, the lowest I can do is 83,000.
Right.
That's a good day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I've done that.
Exactly. Well, the Meriden house.
The way I learned that is I actually had, that's right. Yeah, the two family. Yeah, they were asking.
It was.
It's $150,000
$150,000 house. They were asking at least $100,000 because they were desperate.
Had 3 offers of 90.
90.
Sold to us for 58.
Yep.
Yeah.
Less than.
Huh?
Less than.
Less than 58?
Just a little bit. Anyway, 57,000.
Oh, is that what it was?
570.
Okay.
Just pulled
Okay,
a number. Anyway, okay.
That was pull the number out of the ass number.
Yep.
Okay. So, I was going to make a point here and I forgot what it was.
Sorry about that.
You're talking about coming in lower on the numbers, and then you could
Wholesaling.
wholesale it or just keep it. It gives you more options.
Oh, here's the point. Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
Here's the point. The only reason, let's put this stake in the ground and call a spade and just get it out in the air. The only reason why anybody wholesales a house is because they don't know how to raise the money or do the renovation. Their competence level is low.
Yeah.
Their ability to pull through the deal is low. They're looking for quick, easy money, and that's totally okay, but they're not in the long haul.
Yeah.
So that's the type of personality it pulls.
Yeah.
When you have a wholesaler, and there's nothing wrong with them because I buy houses from wholesalers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work for not a lot of money. It's a job. Okay? That's my take on it. Next one down is free and clear. Loan to value ratio is 0. Equity is 100%. For a long time, I never, ever did any real math or any real negotiating with the free and clear owner on the telephone. If it was free and clear, I had a rule that we just went. Okay? The only thing you need to realize about a free and clear owner is this. For 20 or 30 or 40 years, in most cases, that person's been paying their mortgage as if they were putting money into a savings account. Like they get their paycheck and they put their $100 a week in there. And it's like a habit. Mm-hmm. And after a while, it becomes a routine. But in the beginning, it was a sacrifice. So the reason why I bring that up is when I say that, it's because it's their savings account. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, something came along in their life, like they want to retire, or the wife wants to move to Florida, or they want to buy a camper, or whatever it may be, they want to cash in on the savings account
Right.
and get their money. So these deals are harder to find, where they're willing to let their equity be received in monthly payments. Those are harder to find. But when you find those deals, they are monster deals. Okay? But they're not easy to find. That's the reason why we cast the big net, because we are going to find all of these 7 deals. So let's just run down them again. I'm going to do it rat-a-tat-tat. Okay? So the first one is a slot deal. It's 100% loan to value, 0% equity. The second one is an option deal. It's 90% loan to value, 10% equity. The next one down is a lease option, 85% loan to value ratio, 15% equity. The next one down is a subject to or getting the deed deal, which is 80% loan to value ratio, 20% equity. The next one below that is a rehab retail deal, 70% loan to value ratio, 30% equity. The one below that is a wholesale deal, which is 60% loan to value ratio, 40% equity. The one below that is free and clear. It's 0% loan to value ratio, 100% equity. Realize at the end of the day, when you're making an offer, the easiest, fastest, most plausible way to understand what you're doing is to live by this final rule. Money now, money monthly, money later. It's a 3-legged stool. When you have all 3 of them, you got a killer deal. You don't need to have all 3. Like, for example, the slot deal is just money now.
Mm-hmm.
An option deal is just money now. A lease option is money now, money monthly, money later. A rehab deal is just money now. A wholesale deal is just money now. An owner finance deal is money now, money monthly, money later. So, what am I telling you? In a very insidious way here, is the 2 best deals are lease options and owner financing.
And subject to.
And subject, I forgot subject
You
to.
did.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Subject to. So those are the 3 best deals you can do. Thank you, Naomi. So lease option, subject to, and owner financing are money now, money monthly, money later. In fact, I've gotten to a point where when I do my presentations, I always put my first foot forward as subject to, which usually starts with, are you willing to sell the house for what you owe on it?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say no, I immediately go into, okay, would you be willing to lease the house to me with an option to purchase? And when you get it down to those simplicities, then you will make deals. Okay?
Wow. 1 hour and 2 minutes.
That was like one sentence.
That was amazing.
That was one long sentence.
So
Good
let's
job.
recap. 7 ways to buy houses that realtors hate and sellers love. Why do realtors hate it? Because they don't get their fees and we get the deals. Caution, caution, caution. Don't believe anything you hear and half of what you see in real estate. During this podcast, you will quickly see how to leverage your mind and not your wallet or your credit. Knowing how to convert houses into money now, money monthly, and money later, regardless if you are wealthy or broke, and works everywhere if you know the exact steps. And in this podcast, we will cover those steps so you can decide to choose the easy way or the hard way while earning a full-time income and working part-time. I think we've covered that.
The end.
Beautiful.
See you next week.
Over
Over
and
and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.